Right. And Tony, I know you always do this, but if you can just check that I did not mess up the Facebook Live and make sure that our Facebook Live audience is able to join us. Good afternoon, everybody. We're only 3 minutes late. It's not terrible. Good afternoon. Today, for those that have been with us throughout the entire month, and since we've been hybrid since last month, I just want to quickly share that we do not have the owl with us, which is the device that typically moves around the room. So you'll probably really just be focused on me or Tony's screen, which shows the entire room until I share my screen, that is. Also, that means from a sound point of view, if you have trouble hearing me or trouble hearing anyone in the room that might have a question, just interrupt us or drop it in the chat, and Tony or Mendez will realize it and let me know so that we can make sure we are paying attention to you. And for my friends on Facebook, I'm gonna tell you, like I tell you every week, you just need to come on over here, meet us in person, or just join us on Zoom. But we do go live because we understand that's not the case for everybody. Some of you prefer Facebook Live, and we like to include as many people as possible and make sure that you have access to the information. So with that said, good afternoon again. I am Maglia Singh. I am the Executive Director of Hustle Winston-Salem. I'm so happy to see you all for the final session of this particular series, Storytelling for Entrepreneurs. And we've been having a good time this entire month, at least I think so. And based on some of your emails to me, I think that many of you are finding value in the sessions, and that honestly just makes me happy. It lets us know that the work that we are putting out there, you do make use of it in your business. So that's very important to us. There's a seat up there, but we probably may need more chairs potentially. So as you all know, we are transitioning this hybrid situation, and I want to first say, because Marketing Outside the Box is only 1 hour long, we never had, sorry room, I'm looking right at my screen. We typically never have time to do introductions of everyone. So we really encourage you to use the chat function, use the comment section on Facebook, let us know who you are, tell us your business, drop your links so that we can follow you. We record these on purpose so that we can go back and engage and interact with you. Now, typically, if I have 5 or less people in the room, I allow the room to go around and do quick intros, but we have more than 5 people in the room today. We're not going to do that. But as you ask questions throughout today's session, or if we get time to do the activity at the end, if you do speak up during that time, use that time to let us know about your business, because I just want to make sure that we get through the text and through the content, because this is the last session of this series. So next month, we won't be returning to this topic. So big picture, Hustle Winston-Salem is a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to inclusive entrepreneurship. So our primary focus is on women and people of color, but we also work with marginalized communities. We are starting to a stronger focus on the LGBTQIA+ community, so on and so forth. So you'll start to see those things. We do this particular program, Marketing Outside the Box, in partnership with Flywheel Co-working, which is this amazing space that we are inside of. And we also do it in partnership with the Foresight Tech Small Business Center. And I shared earlier this month, and I went into a little bit detail of it last week, how Marketing Outside the Box is changing starting in September. So to explain the change, I'm speeding through this because I have to get through all of this to get through the content. To explain the change, I'm gonna give you a little history of Marketing Outside the Box. When we started Marketing Outside the Box in 2018, Tony, let me know if that's the wrong year. When we started Marketing Outside the Box in 2018, it was primarily because we surveyed entrepreneurs and small business owners in our community and found that marketing was the #1 need that they needed assistance with their business. So it started as a monthly program, quickly became bi-weekly. So we were doing it twice a month, and then before we knew it, before the end of 2018, we were doing it by the end of 2018, we were doing it all 4 weeks and every month, and it became a monthly program that we were doing every single week. And that's how we've been running Marketing Outside the Box since then. Now we are transitioning backwards. We are going back to doing it once a month, starting in the month of September. There are multiple reasons why we're doing that. Number one, we're really switching it into more, historically, it's been more lecture style, me providing content, you going back and applying that content to your business, following up with us one-on-one if you need to. We're changing the sessions more into workshop style, where you will be working on your business during Marketing Outside the Box. And it's because when we assess it, we find that a lot of you take that information and you keep it in, and that's great. But like I said, we like to see you apply it to your business. That's the whole purpose of why we do this. We need to know that it's working for your business, because at the end of the day, we are focused on making sure your business grows and that your bottom line is growing, is increasing. So the best way to do that is make sure that you're applying these things. So the sessions will switch to applying these things during the sessions. So we'll do that once a month. More importantly, the other reason, not more importantly, but just as important, the other reason we're switching is because as we've just been looking at our capacity and shifting kind of focuses, because we have so many other programs. Please visit our website to learn about some of those. It just doesn't make sense for us to do it every week. Now, if we find that people are needing it every week and it's not working once a month, we will definitely go back. We are an organization that don't mind changing and shifting. So just know that. Whew, all right, I should have got water. All right, so that's Marketing Outside the Box for you. Just as an FYI, today we are also hosting Womenpreneur Wednesday at our other space, which is located in Spark. And we do that twice a month on Wednesdays. Starting in September, it'll be the second and fourth Wednesday of every month, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's free co-working space for womenpreneurs and those that support womenpreneurs. So that means men and people who identify as others. You are welcome to come as well. Just know that the space is primarily catered to women that day. There's a lot of data as to why that's the case. I'm not going to get into it now, meaning the music that we're playing is women empowerment. Women have preference for the one-on-one coaching, et cetera, but you are welcome to be there with your team, even if you are not a woman, to do work that day. And that's also in downtown Winston-Salem. And similar, we have Startup Study Hall next Thursday, August 4th at Spark. Same situation, it's for everybody. Join us. Go to our website to learn more about these programs, because I don't want to spend too much time talking about them. Am I forgetting anything? I think that's it. Am I forgetting anything, Tony? Oh, next month. So next month's Marketing Outside the Box is the same process. We're going to do it every week. We're not starting once a month until September, except August 3rd. So the first Wednesday in August, we will not have Marketing Outside the Box, but every Wednesday that month. So there's 5 Wednesdays in the month. So the other 4 Wednesdays, we will have it. It will be hybrid, same setup, except we'll have the owl. And what we're talking about is, what we're doing is viral videos, okay? We will be creating content. The goal is that by the end of each session, you would have walked away with a video for your platform, whether that's TikTok or Instagram. Those are going to be the 2 platforms we focus on, you creating videos for. And we've already done sessions on both of those, so it won't be about the basics. It's literally creating them so that you can post them whenever you are ready. And if you need the background, you'll see we'll put the links for the videos before and the presentations before, so that you come prepared and know how this works. But really, we're just trying to get you to create videos that can help you go viral, if that's your goal, on social media, okay? So you'll see most of that in email. If you registered for this session, you'll see it in an email, and you can register if that's something you are interested in. Y'all, you already know that I can talk a lot. Woo! Okay, any questions about that before I jump into today's presentation? Any questions? Because I know I just said a lot. All right, well, seeing none, let me get our presentation up and going. If you just asked me a question, Ethan, I did not hear you.
No.
Okay. So as a quick run through. Oh, sorry, pause before I jump into the presentation. For those of you in the room, like I mentioned, the Small Business Center is also one of our partners. And as they are returning back to in-person, before we weren't doing this during the pandemic, but for those that have been with Marketing Outside the Box for years, you could recall pre-pandemic, we used to fill out these forms. The Small Business Center needs us to start that process again for those that are in the room. So I'm just gonna pass this sheet around. If you can just put your name, I think that's all. they need to put, Ethan? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Your name
so
and your
if-
business, if you have a business, just put that down. And just for the sake of it, just put your email address for them. That would be helpful. So Monica, if you can create a category, name, business, email address, and that will be shared with the Foresight Tech Small Business Center, just as an FYI for those in the room. We got it. Okay, so just quick run through of what we covered the last 3 weeks for those that are joining us for the first time this week for this series. We have been talking about the 4 major essential storytelling methods for entrepreneurs. So week 1, I went over the elevator pitch. Week 2, the origin story. Week 3, the pitch deck. And then today we're covering the internal story. And no worries, you will all will receive this presentation. And we will also include all of the links to the past recordings for the month if you need to follow up. And as I mentioned before, once you get that, if you need a one-on-one and need a little bit more help around any one of these stories, we are more than happy to sit with you and help you in your business do that. And it is free. We don't charge for any of our services in that way. Okay, so quickly, we ran through the elevator pitch. I showed generally, which most of you may know as the elevator pitch, we didn't talk about it much. I just put it up there because this works for some people, but then I showed what we at Hustle feel is a better way of doing it, more authentic way of doing it in our opinion. We went through that again. You can watch the recording to get through this because I'm not going through it all over again, but I call it the three question, 3 answer / solution way. Then we practiced it in the session and I think most people did a pretty good job. Week 2, we did the origin story and we followed this storyboard. We went through each item on the storyboard. And I personally believe it was pretty effective and hopefully people are already applying it to their storytelling methods. Week 3, last week, we talked about the pitch deck version of storytelling. And we went through 3 general ways of doing storytelling, the hero's journey, the customer's tale, and then finally the industry's point of view. But after we went through those 3, which are, like I said, the general, we then followed up with what I thought were key areas that no matter what, you should make sure is part of your pitch deck storytelling. One of those areas was your team. Then the next was the total addressable market, which we went through the slide. And again, you can see it all in the recording. After the total addressable market, we then talked a little bit about financial viability. And those were the 3 things that I said, no matter what, on a pitch deck, you need to make sure those three areas are there. So again, the 3 stories, we did the 3 general ones, hero's journey, customer's tale, industry point of view. Then we went into section 2, which was the areas that I feel like you should have no matter what in that pitch deck story, which is your team, the addressable market, the total addressable market, and the financial viability. And then we went through this way of looking at pitch decks with these 3 questions. Why should I care? Why should I believe? Why should I join? And I tied that all up with reminding everybody that if you think about these 3 questions in your pitch deck, essentially you are creating what most of us will know as a pitch deck. We are answering all these areas, all of these questions. In that process, I did share with the group, when you go back and listen to the recording, Magalia Synth is not a fan of pitch decks, but it is a strong form of storytelling, especially if you are seeking funding from an investor. So it's an important storytelling format for you to take into consideration and apply to your business if that is your goal. So make sure, if nothing else, if that's something you are trying to do, you go back and watch week 3 and you can schedule one-on-one with us after you do so if you have more questions. This was just a closing message from last week, which brings us to today. So hopefully that gives you a quick idea of getting caught up of what we've covered so far, which has been a lot, I know. But today we are focused on your internal story, which we think is the last form of storytelling for your business as entrepreneurs that you should consider. So the elevator pitch is one. That's the quick and dirty, like I like to call it, when you don't have much time. Most of you are familiar with that one. But when you go back and watch the recording, consider the way we are suggesting that you do the elevator pitch. It just makes you stand out a little bit more, and it really focuses on your story and not you really trying to sell to somebody in a minute, you know what I mean? And then the origin story really focuses on your why, and it lets you tell your story from the perspective of the why. And then the pitch deck, again, like I said, is if you are seeking funding for your business. So the internal story, let me ask you all this question before we get started. And feel free to jump in with your response, unmute yourself if you're on Zoom to answer this, just kind of popcorn responses. What do you feel is a business top asset? What is the top asset of a business, of any business? People, I heard people. Cash. Mission. Anybody on Zoom have a response? People, cash, mission is what we've heard in the room. Nothing? I don't know if it's in the chat. I don't know if it's in the chat.
The genuineness of the staff.
Can you repeat that?
Can you repeat that? The genuineness of the staff.
The genuineness of the staff.
Genuineness of the staff. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, got it. So what's your name in the front? Ma'am? Isis. So Isis and I have the same idea. It is my genuine belief. I'm a firm believer, and I mean, it's not just me, data backs this up. I do believe it genuinely, even if the data didn't exist. Somebody said in the chat, catering to a wide range of clients. Okay, somebody said in the chat, catering to the wide range of clients. So like Isis, right? Like Isis, I'm a firm believer that human capital is the most important part of any business. It's not just me. You Google this. I'm not a genius. I do believe this just intently, but this is backed up by data. The human asset is a top asset for any company, including yours. So in this ever-changing business world, entrepreneurial space, your human assets are what sets you apart from your competitors. You have to know that. You have to think about it that way. Your staff's collective knowledge distinguishes why your business is better than the rest and why your customers should purchase your products and service. And again, if you're following the storytelling tips that we talked about the last 3 weeks, you already know that this makes sense. What I'm saying makes sense. We've mentioned your employees in every single version. Like I said, throughout the other storytelling methods in the series, you've heard me mentioning including your team in your story, whether it was briefly in your elevator pitch. We talked about making sure you even mentioned them, even if it was 1 second. We were very intentional about mentioning them in the origin story. And then we were very strategic about mentioning it in the pitch deck story. And if you remember in the pitch deck story, one of the biggest things I stressed to you all was investors do not invest in companies, they invest in people. They invest in your team. And I stressed that last week because that teed us up for this week. So rightfully so, you should mention them in the internal story. But the only thing that I want to point out about the other three different versions of storytelling that's different from today is that all of those are external. Whether you're doing the elevator pitch, the origin story, or the pitch deck, all of that is external. You're talking to an outside audience. The beauty of the internal story is that you have to turn inside to your team and your staff and make sure that they believe in your company. And for me, my honest opinion, the internal story is the hardest one of all the storytelling efforts. I think it is the hardest one. I think it's where most entrepreneurs, we don't do a good job. We don't do a good job of selling our business to our team, okay? So why do I think it's so hard? Because at the end of the day, you have to get people to believe in what you're doing to the point that it's more than just a paycheck to them. Because if your employees feel like it's just a paycheck to them, your company, I'm just telling you, okay, if this is your first time a hustle, we give it to you straight, no, what is it? Straight, no shaker? No chaser. No chaser, thank you. Okay, listen, I slept for 3 hours last night, okay? Leave me alone, leave me alone. Okay, but I could use a train. Okay, straight, no chaser. We give it to you straight, no chaser. If you do not find a way for your employees, for your team, even if you're not paying them yet, if you do not find a way for your team to believe in your business and your mission and your purpose, all of those things, your company will fail, period. Wrap that around your mind now, okay? And we'll look at a strong example of what I'm saying today. So in these cases, like I said, if your team, if your employees, and I'm strategically using the word employees and team because we know some of us are early entrepreneurs, some of us are early business owners. We may not be paying people yet. We may have a team of volunteers, or we may have a team of folks that we provide other benefits to that's not a paycheck, okay? But they're around because hopefully they believe in your mission and your vision. So your mission, your vision, your purpose, your values, all of that, et cetera, et cetera. These are the elements of your internal story. Now, we're not going to walk through those areas today. That's not the purpose of marketing outside the box. I'm not talking through how you need to create your mission statement, vision. That's a whole different session for a different day. That's not marketing outside the box. And if you need one-on-one training with that, reach out to us and our ecosystem partners. We're happy to help you. But today we're talking about how you look at that from a storytelling lens, right? How do you look at all of those areas, your mission, your vision, your purpose, your values, et cetera, from the storytelling lens as it play out with your internal story, meaning with your team? Because at the end of the day, the internal story is about motivating your team to work towards your mission, as well as a future that likely doesn't yet exist. So they are thinking through looking at your company even better than what it is now. That means they believe in it. They're looking to make it better. Because people don't feel aligned with a company's values or purpose, they literally will choose to leave. What did I tell you? You will not have a company. The internal story was always important. It was always important. And it's gotten a whole lot more important because now people care so much about purpose. People care so much about purpose when they are working. So for those that was at the origin story session, think back to when we discussed how once you come up with your origin story, how you chart once upon a time, like back in, I think I used the 90s as the example, you could have come up with a marketing gimmick, to be honest, back then with your company and it would have worked. But in today's world, you can't do that. People are looking for that authentic story. It's the same thing with your employees. The marketing gimmick is not going to work. So you have to tie it to a purpose for them. They have to feel like they're part of something bigger. So one of the best examples of an internal story for me and those who are faithful marketing outside the box people, y'all know I always come back to either Target or Starbucks, right? I come back to them all the time. Today is Starbucks. One of the best examples of an internal story is from Starbucks, from when the company first started. So in a second, I'll share a video about the concept that Starbucks has of the third place, right? The third place for them. Are y'all familiar with Starbucks concept of a third place? Anybody? Yes, yes. See, we here. I like her. Issa's girl. You a Gemini?
No, I'm not.
Oh, I was gonna say we just connected. Oh, you know what? Me and Scorpios get along well. That's what it is. So I'll share that video in a second, but just to kind of prep your minds for it, the third place for Starbucks, it's a place outside of the frenzy of the home and where you work, because both of them are kind of chaotic sometimes. They consider the third place where you could relax and spend time with friends, family, whoever you want to, or you can just get work done there. And Starbucks focus on how they provide that space for their customers. So while customers are always important, the reason this works so well for Starbucks as an internal story is because it makes their employees feel like they are working towards a mission. And I'm sharing this example to show you how simple the internal story is so you don't overthink it. Their employees truly felt like, oh, I play a role in being this safe haven for the people that come into this space, right? So let's quickly watch, and I think I have two videos, they're short. We'll quickly watch one of the videos, have a little discussion, and go into the second video. Y'all cross my fingers that these videos work because these platforms don't seem to like me a lot.
Starbucks has always put their focus on their coffee and space. Based on their third place concept, the global coffee chain has been loved by many around the world. What's the third place concept? This concept comes from Starbucks' philosophy of offering a comfortable place for their customers that is outside of their 1, home, and 2, work. Even though Starbucks charges a premium price for their coffee, customers still choose to go there as their third place to spend a comfortable time. As you can understand, Starbucks doesn't simply focus on raising the quality of their coffee or products in order to charge that additional premium fee. Instead, they put a lot of their focus on the customer's experience. Customers at Starbucks are there for the welcoming and comfortable atmosphere, for the hospitality of well-trained staff and baristas, and for the excitement of trying the newest limited edition Frappuccino. Starbucks looks carefully at the customer's core desires and satisfies them through experience. And they do this so well that even their staff are proud to work there. Everyone involved at Starbucks, including the customers and workers, feel more valued when they are there. And this is how Starbucks continues to grasp the hearts of everyone involved with them. And this is why customers continue to choose Starbucks for their coffee.
First of all, I somehow played the wrong video. This is perfectly fine. I somehow played the wrong video first, but let me see, did I just put them in the wrong order? Give me a second. Okay, no, I did. I must have just deleted that other video. There was another video I wanted you all to watch, but it's okay. That worked really well for the point that I'm trying to make anyways. So let me ask you, what immediately jumps out to you from the video? What immediately jumped out from you from what we just watched? Anything? Nothing? Nobody? It's not all about coffee. And thinking with the lens of the internal story, what we just talked about. The philosophy, the fact that they had what the philosophy was. I'm getting this echo. Somebody on Zoom was about to say something?
Yes, I noticed the clean space, uncluttered space.
The clean space.
No.
What?
Uncluttered.
Uncrowded.
Uncluttered.
Cluttered.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you. Tony, are you muted? I don't know why we get an echo. Okay. So the chat says it seems as if Starbucks focuses on the customer experience. Also, Tanya said made reference to and acknowledge their employees. Thank you. Tanya got to the heart of what I wanted you to make sure you heard and got in that video. And it's pretty much that their employees felt compelled to do it as well. And I'll try my best. I may not. I think it's within the last 30 seconds. They mentioned their staff maybe 2 or 3 times in the video, but they really tied it up at the end to say, everybody loves Starbucks, including the staff. Like they feel like they are part of this story. They feel like they are important to the customer. Because I mean, how many, okay, clearly I'm addicted to Starbucks, right? But how many of you all have been to Starbucks? Yes, most people? Okay, the barista is an important part of Starbucks. It's part of Starbucks culture. Starbucks don't just hire baristas and say, make coffee. Like you know that barista, especially if you go to the same Starbucks all the time. You know who's there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays from 6 to 10. You know who's gonna be there 8 p.m. on Thursday and Friday. Like they create that culture. Starbucks ingrained this within their staff, their companies. That's part of their story. And it's not a traditional story like we saw with the other 3. Then we'll talk about some concepts. Let me pay attention to time. We'll talk about concepts of how you do that. Let me move on to the next video real quick. I still don't know where that first video went. That's crazy. I'll include it when I send this presentation though. You'll see the first video because I know where it is.
Have you noticed how everything seems a little impersonal nowadays? We've all become usernames, reference numbers, and IP addresses. That's why at Starbucks we've decided to do things differently. From now on, we won't refer to you as a latte or a mocha, but instead as your folks intended, by your name. Okay, we know it's only a little thing, But hey, why don't we buy you a coffee on the morning of the 14th of March and you can introduce yourself? We're Starbucks. Nice to meet you.
So what's key about this video that I want to point out? And before I get into it, let me put us back into perspective. Starbucks, a company that started back in 1971, they pretty much started Starbucks with the mission to become its customers' third place to go. They really built that into their staff training, their employee training. They really got to the top of that. It's my notes. Really got to the top of that with their staff. They really drilled that mission into their team to the point that becoming the third place for the customer was enough for the employees to embrace the mission of the company and want to be part of that story. They wanted to be a part of the story of becoming the third place. The reason I showed you this second video is that in 2011, so what did I just say? Starbucks started in 1971. 2011, what? Y'all know I'm not good at math. 30 years? More than 30 years, something like that, 40 years later. But in 2011, one of the baristas at a Starbucks decided that writing the name of the customer on the cup made the difference. In just one of their store, one of the employees just wrote the person's name and kept doing that. That got back to Starbucks headquarters, that they were doing that and that it was working. Starbucks then implemented it across the entire company. And when you go to Starbucks now, they do not hand you a cup that say whatever your drink is, right? As you saw in the video, it doesn't just say latte or mocha or whatever it is that you ordered, right? It's your name. It became part of the Starbucks story, the Starbucks culture. And I mean, of course, it's been duplicated by many companies ever since, but it became very much that Starbucks knew you on a first name basis, just because they put your name on a cup. I'm sharing that because Starbucks valued the employee, brought that idea into the company as a whole, and other employees that come into the company that learn that that came from an employee now feel like, wow, I'm at a firm, I'm at a company that I'm valued. I can come up with an idea and see it replicate. And we know that this happens with companies everywhere. Starbucks is not the only one. That's just my favorite example, right? And you want to think that way with your team, with your internal story, with your theme, with your staff, et cetera. We as CEOs, as founders, whatever title we want to give ourselves, our businesses a lot of times are our babies. And we are protective of it, and we do not allow it to grow through our team. You want your team to be part of your story. You want to give them that room to grow. So you want to think about that as part of your internal story with your staff, okay? And make sure. So in the video, you heard them say, from now on, we won't refer to you as a tall latte or a mocha, but as your folks intended, by your name. It's only a little thing. We're Starbucks. Nice to meet you, right? You heard them say that in the video. I'm pointing that out because that little thing that they changed and made part of their internal story of Starbucks. We are in a world now where Starbucks sells coffee, their cups with names on it. They sell over 4 billion a year. You know what I mean? It made such a difference into what the company's revenue is. And again, if it's your first time with us, you just know we only do this because we're trying to make your bottom line increase. If you're not here for that, leave, right? Like if you're not here to try to get rich, leave. What is it? Get rich or die hard trying? Well, I need to go to sleep. What is it? Get rich or die trying. It's a day. It's a day. It's a day. Who said it? Get rich. Who is it? Oh, 50 Cent. Yeah. I was like, where did I get that from? Okay. Okay, but really just really wanting you to embrace that mindset that something small becoming part of your internal story, making sure it's relayed to your staff and your staff embraces that, ties it to your mission, ties it to your to your purpose, is really how you get them to really embrace that internal story. So again, the internal story has a lot to do with those traditional business concepts that you've always learned about: your mission, your vision, your values, your purpose, etc. Okay, Magley, all of that sounds so good. But how do we get our internal teams to fall in love with our mission, our vision, our values, etc., right? How do we do it? So what we're going to go through is 4 concepts, because let me see. I'm going to go through the creation of these concepts. They're not going to be foreign to you when I go through them. They shouldn't be. If they are, you really need to have a one-on-one with me. But they shouldn't be foreign to you. But you make sure the purpose of you seeing them again is to make sure you're applying it as part of what's going to become your internal story. So again, I'm assuming you already have your mission, your vision, your purpose, your values, all of that together. And again, if you don't, it's okay, because we're all at different stages of business. So if you don't have it, hustlewsinfo@gmail.com. Hit us up and we got you. Tony or Tasha or Sheridan or Mendez, if y'all can drop that email address in the chat and in the Facebook link, please get it to them so that they know how to contact us. Everybody in the room, I'll make sure I repeat it again before the end of the day in case you want to write it down. But if you need help with those areas, it's 100% okay. We're just not doing that today, but you can come back to us for those areas. So I'm making the assumption that most of us have those things together. We have our mission, vision, purpose, values, etc. Okay. But how do you get your internal team to embrace that story? Again, the story being those things: mission, vision, values, purpose, etc. How do you get your internal team to embrace it? And it's really by getting your internal story together through cultivating and amplifying your authentic employee voices, which we saw in the 2011 Starbucks example. They embraced it and we saw what happened. That's a drastic version, but we still saw what happened. And you do that because it ensures important messages and themes come across more effectively, rather than broadcasting it through like traditional channels to your entire team, even if your team is a team of 1. When you're talking about things that you want people to embrace and become part of your internal story, you don't just drop it in an email to them and assume that they have now embraced your company and they love it. You don't assume that you do this one-time training when you brought them onto your staff, even if it's a volunteer. You don't assume like, we're going to spend 5 minutes on this screen. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to read our mission to you. I'm going to read our vision to you, whatever. You got it. You now love my company. That's not how it happens, right? Like, you have to be a little bit more consistent. You have to put it in their face more constantly. So we'll talk about various ways to do that. And if time allows, which I think it will, we'll take about 5 minutes where each of you will choose one of the 4 ways, think through a strategy of how you can implement it in your business. And if we have time to share out, we'll probably hear from 2, 3, 4 people. Okay. Did I put it on the screen? Make sure y'all, hold on. Y'all know, I told y'all these screens don't like me. Let's try again. Oh, wait, there we go. Yeah, I did put it on the screen. Look at me. All right, so the 4 ways that we're going to talk about is goal alignment, capability building, team building, and emotional connection. So when we think about goal alignment, really what we're talking about there is what I've already been saying. We're talking about increasing your employees' line of sight to your company's goals with clear, well-integrated strategy messaging that supports your company's strategy and values. So big words mean nothing if I don't repeat them. Essentially, what I'm saying here is you need to drill these things into your employees, staff, volunteers, whatever, into their normal day-to-day. It should be common knowledge to them. I feel fairly confident, if nothing else, the Hustle team will know to say inclusive entrepreneurship when explaining who Hustle is. If they know nothing else, right? And y'all better know more than that. But if they know nothing else, I feel fairly confident that they know at our core, we are focused on inclusive entrepreneurship. And I believe that we have a team of people that believe in expanding and pushing that movement, right? And that's why hopefully that's why they're still on the team. I feel the same way about our volunteers. Ethan, you're one of our volunteers. I would hope you feel the same way. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same thing. And it's the brand, or however you want to call it, you need to make it a part of making them fully feel like that's part of who they are. Now, there are multiple ways to do goal alignment. In my case, I personally don't believe in hiring you if you're not there. That's a personal choice, though. I'm not telling you that's what you need to do, because you can have someone that's excellent for your team, but you need to get them there. It is your job, especially if you're a small business, it is your job to take the time to repeatedly get it into. You have to continuously reinforce the message of your business. The message, again, being your mission, your vision. You can get creative with it, but you need to make sure that they have a full understanding of it and they have fully embraced what that means, as we saw with Starbucks. And if you choose to do this one, and when we take 5 minutes today, what you're really answering is, how can and how will you do this with your team? The strategy, quick, simple strategy. Don't overthink it. What's your way of getting goal alignment with your staff, your team? And even if you don't have a staff or team yet, think it's, you got to strategize before you do anything anyways. Still think through it. So that's option 1. Option 2, capability building. This explains how your team could successfully adopt a new approach or how they navigate changes. That's what capability building is about. Here, this mindset, the capability building option, it really enables employees to live vicariously through the company. It makes them feel like their day-to-day is part of the company. Like, what's y'all favorite thing to do that's not work related? I like to travel. So think of something that's part of your life, or you want it to be part of your life. And that's how you think about the capability building. Like, your employees live through the company this way. So it's important to them. It matters to them. Okay? Like, that's how you think about the capability. And this boosts self-confidence, and this boosts know-how in your company. And when people are confident with working with you, when people feel like they know how to do things within your company, that internal story is set. They love it. This version of stories, and I'm doing the word stories in quotations here, because again, we don't think of these as traditional stories, but they're storytelling. They are. This version of stories should include action steps and lessons learned. So you really think about action steps you want for your team. You think about lessons learned when you see employees do certain things. And this is really how you grow in this area. This is how you really can replicate it. So like, if you have the lessons learned, if you think about the action steps from the employees, you can then replicate it. Again, a good example of this one is the video of the 2011 Starbucks employee, right? Like, I'm assuming it's a she, this is me being biased. I don't know if it was a woman or a man. But this person wrote the name on the cup, right? Like, this person felt that they were comfortable enough to write the name, and they kept doing it because they felt like this was in line with the company. This wasn't so far off. I'm not going to lose my job and get fired because I'm putting names on the cup. If anything, this is enhancing the company's brand. They felt they can live vicariously through the company. And it could be that they were just a friendly person. They're just a friendly person. They like to remember names, right? That's it's in line with who they are. It's what they are capable of. It's their capability building, right? And it was something that the company saw that can be replicated. The company saw action steps. They probably learned a few lessons in that process, and it was something they saw that it could be replicated. And bada bing, bada boom, we have Starbucks today with our names on cups, right? So same concept with your business, whatever it is. The third one, my favorite one, is team building. This one celebrates what makes your team distinctive, and it successfully boosts employees' sense of pride and belonging to your company. So it sounds like the others, but this one is, you are intentionally doing things to boost morale, to boost the sense of pride with your team within the company. And this can be done through intentional team building activities. So you can think as big as company retreats. You can think as, I don't want to use the word small, but you can think as simple, that sounds bad too, but you can think as simple as your weekly team meetings during your 30-minute coffee meetings, taking a second to celebrate or do a team building activity. So you know, just depending on your ability, your capacity, what you're able to do, all those small team building things helps your team, your staff, your employees essentially fall in love with your company. You know, you see those scenarios where it's really hard for some people to leave a firm or leave a company, especially in the startup world. Very hard to see people. It's because they're whoever's in charge, CEO, marketing manager, whomever, probably did an excellent job making them fall in love with the company. And whether that person stayed or leave, that person is forever a storyteller for your company, forever. Because they'll always say, oh yeah, I used to work at Starbucks. And this was my experience. And this is why Starbucks is great. Or they can have a different scenario based on what you provided them, right? So that internal story matters. So again, if we have time to do activity, when you're thinking about this one, you're thinking, how are you already implementing this, or how can you implement this into your company? You're going to come up with a strategy if it doesn't already exist. So goal alignment and team building, you're thinking the same way. How can you do this? Capability building, you're thinking more about action steps, lessons learned, okay? And then the final one, emotional connection. Emotional connection expresses strong emotions or reveals something deeply personal about the company to your employees or to your team or to your staff. You're allowing your company to be vulnerable to the people who work there. You're letting it be deeply personal for them. You're making them get emotionally connected to the business. These stories, again, they help the employees feel more connected to the company as a whole. And they're willing to go the long haul for you in those scenarios. It's just like a relationship. Like the Starbucks example in the first video, they said we had two main places, home and work, before they created that third place in their mind, home and work. People are already emotionally connected at home. You're building that emotional connection at work. And most of us I'm an entrepreneur, so I'm probably unfair what I'm about to say. Most of us who had a traditional 9-to-5, we hated it, which is probably why we are where we are, right? But the idea is you don't want that emotional connection to be negative. My corporate emotional connection, God bless those companies if I ever had to be their storyteller, right? You know what I mean? And you don't want that. It doesn't matter the size of your business. So you want to make sure that second place where they are emotionally connected, that's not home, that second place that they're emotionally connected, which is work, that it's a positive emotional connection. And based on what I'm sharing here, a good way to think about doing that is by providing or revealing something deeply personal about the company. Am I saying that you want to sit there and tell all of your staff that you're in the red? Maybe I am saying, it's up to you. You know the culture you've created, because that might be the thing. Your staff might say, oh, we want to get you out of the red. Let's figure this out. That might be it. I'm not suggesting that always, because you know your company, you know what the situation is, but that could be the personal thing. But it could also be, you started this company because you lost a parent, and this was the parent's situation. So it ties a little bit when you get to some of those scenarios. It sounds a little bit like the origin story, but either way, you're making that emotional connection to them. You're making an emotional connection to them. The idea is they are compelled to tell the company story or feel connected to the company through thinking about what the company's purpose is. Did that make sense, y'all? Mm-hmm. Okay. I was like, do I need to repeat that? So that's the idea. So thinking about this question, if you choose to do this particular one, how can you build emotional connection with your team? That's the question you're answering. How can you build emotional connection with your team? So it's 1:22. And what we'll do is take 3 to 5 minutes. You choose one of these. This is the assignment I'm giving you. Choose one of these: goal alignment, capability building, team building, or emotional connection. You can choose any one you want. Take 3 to 5 minutes. If you're doing goal alignment, think about how will you do goal alignment with your team? Like, how will you do that? And again, remember, goal alignment is really about increasing the employee line of sight with your vision, mission, all of that, like being very clear, reinforcing those messages to them. So how are you going to do that? If you're doing capability building, you're thinking more through action steps and lessons learned that can easily be replicated throughout your company by your employees. So really thinking about approaches that they can take based on their capabilities, if you choose to do that one. Team building, how are you already doing it, or how can you implement this into your team? Don't overthink it. How can you implement team building if you're not already doing it? And if you are doing it, share the strategy with us. And then finally, that emotional connection. How can you build emotional connection with your team? So choose one of those. It's 1:24. We'll work in silence for 3 minutes or so, and I'll interrupt it at the 3-minute mark, just to hear maybe 1 or 2 people. And then we'll take questions at the end. My coffee's cold. Two more minutes. One more minute. Okay. If you're still working, that's perfectly fine. You can keep on working. Keep doing what you're doing. Before I ask for maybe 1 or 2 volunteers to share, and Tony, feel free to hit later on your screen. Just by a quick show of hands in the Zoom and in the room, how many of you chose goal alignment? 2 in the room. I can't really tell on the Zoom if anybody's raising their hand because everybody's camera's off. But you can do the emoji that raised hands if you're choosing that one. How many people chose capability building? Okay, I see maybe 1 hand in the Zoom. How many people chose team building? I see 2 hands in the room. A few more hands in the Zoom. A couple of hands in the Zoom, yeah. And then finally, how many people chose emotional connection? Majority hands in the room, it looks like. And in the Zoom, looks like I see 1 hand for emotional connection. That's just from my nosy knowledge. I didn't ask that for any particular reason. I just kind of want to know where people were leaning more towards, because I like to know these things. But anybody want to share? We only have about 2 minutes, but anybody want to share how they plan to implement this with their team or their staff, whichever one you chose? And give yourself 30 seconds to 45 seconds to share with us if you choose to volunteer. Tanya, is your hand raised from before, or are you volunteering to speak? I think her hand's raised, so can you tell us your name?
Destiny.
Destiny?
Yes, my name is Destiny Butler.
Speak loud enough for them to hear you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Destiny Butler. So I chose emotional connection. And I chose emotional connection because when you know someone's why, it helps a lot to invest in their personal growth as well within the company. So if they have a strength or a weakness, you can be able to pick up on that and also get them training to personally develop later on. I also chose that one for, oh, yes, providing experiences, playing off of the mission, and also making sure that they understand how much of a part of the team they are, which includes involving them in networking events or possible outside events that we may go to, so that way they can make that, inform that genuine bond and connection, making sure they understand the mission and why we do what we do. And last but not least, it's super important in my business, particularly to make sure I do a mission service or some type of volunteering or some type of mission that we do consistently throughout the rims of them being with us, so they can see what it means to give back without receiving anything in.
Thank you so much, Destiny. So what Destiny just did, I don't know if you all caught it, I appreciate it.
Not like a meal.
Mendez, can you find who that is so we can mute it, please? But for what Destiny just did is she actually chose emotional connection, team building, and goal alignment. She put all 3 of those combined. You knew you did that? Yeah. Oh, well, at least that's what I heard. So she talked about the emotional connection, and the way she want to emotionally connect with her team and her staff is by making sure they fully understand the why. Based on whatever her why may be, there's an emotional connection potentially there. So for her, that was how she ended up choosing emotional connection. She also chose team building because she talked about the activities with them doing together and making sure that helps them really feel connected to the company, connected to each other, et cetera. And then she talked about the service that they would do together as a team. So that ties with team building, with the service, the community service or volunteer work that they would do. She said that it would be in line with their mission. It would be something that they do in line with their mission, so they see their mission in practice. So she really put all 3 of those in one as far as how she would do her internal story for her team. And the key, again, you all, is that this isn't something you do one time. This is something that I'm not telling you have to do it every single month. I'm not saying you have to do it every single week, but figure out your cadence. What makes the best sense for you and your team? That could mean one big thing a year, but it's big. It has an impact on your team, or it could mean literally something every month. It could mean something every day, depending on your business. You know, every company is different. So just really think through those things. We are right at time, but let me close out this entire series by letting you know, number one, you will receive the presentation, and you will receive every video connected to the presentation. As long as you registered, we have your email address and we'll be sending it. But just to close out this entire series, if you remember nothing else, key things to keep in mind. 1, know your audience. If you think back to week 1, 2, 3, and now 4, know your audience, whether it's an investor, whether it's your staff, know your audience. 2, or whether it's a customer, obviously. 2, be authentic. We do not live in a world where you need all these gimmicks, these marketing gimmicks, and all these things that we saw back in the 90s, so on and so forth, right? You don't need it. Just be real with people. Those companies are thriving, especially entrepreneurs and small businesses. They are thriving by being authentic. It's why TikTok is what TikTok is and why we're making sure y'all do those videos next month. We think about these things, y'all. Number 3, add value. You're adding value whether you're adding value to your staff, as we talked about today, whether you're adding value to your customer, whether you're adding value to an investor. Add value when you're telling your story. Number 4, no matter which version of the storytelling you choose to take on, that we talked about the different 4 weeks from the last 4 weeks, be consistent. So even if you're doing the elevator pitch, even if you're doing the origin story, even if you're doing the pitch deck, or if you're doing the internal story, there should be some consistency. Based on your audience, you'll choose which one of those stories you're doing. But for the most part, everybody should be hearing the same thing. You're just pitching it a different way, right? You're putting it in front of them differently, but be consistent with it. You don't want people to be like, I don't really understand that company. They real nice people, but I don't really know what they do. You don't want that. Then you're losing storytelling. You've lost your crowd. You lost your audience, okay? Which was rule number 1, know your audience. And then the last thing that I really want to point out, probably the most important thing, start now. Start today. As soon as you leave Marketing Outside the Box, think about it. There's no reason for you to overthink this at all on any level. Storytelling is probably the best thing we can naturally do as humans and business owners. It spans the length of time. Jesus, I need to go to sleep. It spans time, and maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Like, storytelling is something before we had technology, before we had books, our ancestors told stories to get by. It's the same thing with your business. And if you go back to weeks 2 and 3, you see that comparison of how we talk about how storytelling is literally just what we do. Okay, so thank you for staying a little longer. If you have to go, I definitely understand, because it's 1:34. But if you have questions, I'm definitely able to stay a few more minutes. So please feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself and ask your questions. If you're in the room and you have to go and you have a question, I'll let you go first. That's the beauty of coming in person, y'all. And if you don't have a question, but you don't really want to stay in the room, just a reminder, you are free to get coffee, water, juice, snacks, cake. Y'all hear all of that? Courtesy of Flywheel out there on your way out. You're also welcome to stay in Flywheel a little longer and work today. Just let them know you're here with Hustle from Marketing Outside the Box. They won't be a problem. Or you can join us at Spark. And we're there with Womenpreneur Wednesday until 3 o'clock today. If you just want to check out the space, no pressure. But if you do want to check out the space another time, next Thursday, August 4th, from 10 to 2, we are at the Spark space for what we call Startup Study Hall. You can just work there all day. You can have one-on-ones with us. You can tour the space. You can have a team meeting. You can just focus on your business, do what you want, free. And we also validate parking there. So email us if you have any questions about it. And hopefully I'll see you all August 10th, because again, we will not have Marketing Outside the Box on August 3rd, and we'll send an email reminder about that. And I hope this was valuable. And I hope that you go back and check out the other sessions in this series if you didn't catch it, so that you get the full effect of storytelling for entrepreneurs. Whew, that's a lot. All right, questions? And feel free to walk out. Don't feel like you're interrupting me if you have to go. Questions in the room, in the Zoom, and Tony will let me know if Facebook got a question. Tanya, again, is your hand raised for a question, or you just never put it down from before? I'm going to assume you did not put it down from before. And I'm going to assume there's no questions in the chat, Mendez.
That's correct.
We'll send you all of them in the email. Okay. All right. Well, with that, I'm assuming no questions. Either I did a terrible job and nobody has questions, or I did a great job and I gave y'all everything y'all needed to know. I'm going to choose to believe that I did a great job. And you all have a great rest of the week. And yeah, what's today? Thursday? Wednesday? Oh, Jesus. Yeah, I'm going to sleep. Okay. I'm going to sleep. And I hope to see you all in 2 weeks at Marketing Outside the Box, or next week at Startup Study Hall. Have a great day.
And so you said the Spark space is where?
It's literally, I wouldn't walk. Yeah, I wouldn't walk because I'm lazy, but it's walking distance if you wanted to be.